6:30.
Go for it.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Welcome to the Board of Library Trustees regular meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 at 6:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if we could have a roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Cox?
Here.
Trustee DiLorenzo here. Trustee Nealon?
Here.
Trustee O'Keefe?
Here.
Trustee Senate?
Here.
Trustee Summer?
Here.
And Trustee Fishman is absent.
Yes, correct.
The next portion of the meeting, please, will be public comment. Meeting attendees who have signed the visitor public comment registration form and who wish to address the Board of Trustees may do so here. We do have some people here tonight at the meeting, but if there's no one who would like to address, we can move on. Okay, thank you. The next portion, we're going to review the draft of the September 17th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. If you'll look at attachment 1 in your documentation. Is there any comments or corrections at this time to the September 17th, 2024 board meeting minutes? I did not have any.
None, no.
Nothing? Okay, wonderful. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I move approval of the September 17th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes as presented. I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I would assume not. So let us have a roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Cox?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Nealon?
Yes.
Trustee O'Keefe?
Yes?
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Summer?
Yes.
And Trustee Fishman is absent.
So for the record, we had a motion for approval of the September 17th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. That was made by Trustee Summer and then seconded by Trustee Senate. And we had unanimous approval for those attending. The next portion of our meeting, please, is the presentation, which is the fiscal year 23-24 annual audit presentation by Lauterbach and Amen. And I will pass that on.
Welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for being here. Please introduce yourself and the presentation of the auditor's report this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Well, as introduced, my name is Joe Loudon. I'm an audit manager at Lauterbach and Amen, here on their behalf tonight to present to you your fiscal year 2024 annual financial report. I'd like to start this evening by thanking Anthony and the rest of the library team for all their hard work that goes into putting together an annual financial report. It's no easy task to get to this point this evening. It takes a lot of hard work, patience, and time, so we appreciate all your time and effort. Before getting into the documents tonight, I do want to preface that there were changes that were presented today on the final PDFs that were communicated. So the annual financial report that you do have in front of you, there will be some budgetary amounts that will be changing. As they do not impact the financial statements, it's to your discretion if you want to move forward with the approval tonight, or if you want to wait until the final additional pages do come in that are adjusted. You can always approve those at the following board meeting. So just wanted to lay that out there before we get into it tonight. With that being said, I'll be presenting to you 3 required pieces of communication by the state of Illinois. The first of those 3 is going to be the SAS 114 letter. The SAS 114 letter is issued in accordance with Accounting Standard 114, which we are required to disclose any disagreements that occurred with management during the course of the audit process. I'm happy to summarize this document for you and state that we did not have any disagreements this year. So, following the SAS 114 letter, we will get into the annual financial report. It's going to be the largest of the documents in front of you, the large bound copy. If everybody could start on page 1. This is going to start our independent auditor's report. The independent auditor's report has a few different purposes. The first of those three being to state what management's responsibility is during the course of the audit process. This is to prepare the financial statements that are in front of you. The second is to discuss what the auditor's responsibility is during the course of the audit process, which is to generate an opinion on those financial statements. The last thing it does is generate your opinion for fiscal year 2024, which is a modified in relation to the modified cash financial statements that are in front of you. Other than that, it was a very clean year for the financial statements. After the independent auditor's report, if everybody could turn to page 4. Page 4 is going to start your management's discussion and analysis. I highly recommend spending the majority of your time here, as the dense financial statements that follow it are not page turners. So this does a lot better of a job of summarizing the document, painting a lot clearer of a picture of of all the activity that occurred during fiscal year 2024. Also has some nice charts and graphs that just make it a bit easier of a read. After the management's discussion and analysis, I'll get into the financial statements. If I could have everybody turn to page 13. This is going to be the entity-wide statement of activities, or otherwise known as your government-wide income statement. If I could draw everybody's attention to the third line from the bottom in the far right column, you're going to see your overall change in net position was a decrease of $221,000 this year, leaving your net position ending of about $22 million.
Can
Next.
I just say something really quick?
Yep.
Just to clarify something, just so everybody knows that also includes depreciation.
Yes.
So if you're looking, it includes depreciation. Me or him? It does not include, it includes depreciation. So when we do things on a cash basis, it means like when we look at our financials as of year end, it looked like we had a loss of 20,000, but it's actually including depreciation, which is a non-cash item. It's 220. It is? But it's not working? So maybe it's not working? Is it not working? Not working? Not working? Here, we'll trade. Is this working? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Sorry. So I'll say that again. The difference, what's reflected in the financial statement of $221,094 represents the cash loss plus the depreciation expense, which is kind of like a non-cash. So when we do our financials in June, when we look at it, we actually had a cash loss of in the 20,000 range, just so that everyone was clear of that.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you want me to? I'd have to double check. It's about 24,000 is the loss.
Following that, if I could have everybody turn to page 16. This is going to be a little bit more on par with what you were mentioning. This is going to be your fund level income statement. So it's not going to include any of the depreciation items and or IMRF items that get pulled into the government-wide financial statements. So I'm just going to briefly go through each of these funds here and just list off what the change was. So the general fund was a net change of negative $24,000. The special reserve fund was a decrease of $27,000. And then your cumulative non-major had an increase of $99,000, which leaves your overall net change in fund balance for the library at the fund level of $48,000 positive. Following the financial statements, you'll find a few notes to the financial statements, and I'll just briefly go through and summarize what each one holds. Note 1 is going to hold your summary of significant accounting policies. Note 2 would hold any budgetary information. Note 3 is going to hold capital assets. And then note 4 is going to be all other information, which does hold your IMRF. So if I could have everybody turn to page 30. And I just want to draw everybody's attention to the IMRF change in net pension liability that started the year at a net pension asset of 1.8 million. A net pension liability of 1.8 million, which then had a decrease of 926,000, leaving you at a net pension liability of 869,000 this year. Following the notes to the financial statements, you'll find additional supplemental information, budget to actuals, some non-major financial statements. I'm not going to spend any time going through those this evening, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And then the last piece of communication I'm going to be discussing tonight is going to be the library's management letter. I do want to preface before getting into the management letter that this is a listing of best practice recommendations and/or any upcoming GASB pronouncements. If you turn in a couple pages, you'll see the start of our current recommendations. The first one being a GASB statement, GASB number 102, in which you'll see that the management has acknowledged the comment and will work to implement it when it is required by GASB. Then you'll see GASB number 103, in which you'll see the same response that the management team will work to implement it when it does become applicable. The next page, you'll see a current recommendation for outstanding checks, in which you'll see management's response acknowledging the comment and to work to correct it. Following the current recommendations, we have a couple prior recommendations. You'll see GASB number 100, in which you'll see the comment that the comment has been implemented and will not be repeated in the future. GASB number 101, and you'll see management's response on the following page saying management acknowledges this comment and, if applicable, will work to implement it when required by GASB. And that will conclude my portion of the presentation tonight. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Also, if after the meeting questions do come up, please feel free to reach out to myself or the team that worked on the engagement.
I had one question. On note 4, there was a discussion of other post-employment benefits.
Yep.
And how former employees have the ability to retain their health benefits.
Yep.
And historically, it sounds like the library has not had a high participation rate. Is that consistent with the industry, or is the library's experience unique in that regard?
I would say it's pretty consistent across the library industry as a whole. Depending on the size, obviously, we rarely see other post-employment benefits being partaken in at other libraries.
And any reason to think that that could change going forward, or?
Not off the top of my head that I could address on tonight. I just think it's all due to the size of it and the amount of money that it would take to get into it, and it would be, I think, a little bit more involved, but not off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to confirm everybody received my email, which talked about the changes that we made, really just the budget numbers. Okay. Because it affects the notes, so like on page 9, which talks about, it says, the resulted primary property taxes being lower than the budgeted amount. I think because that statement is not true, I would not recommend. I would not recommend approving them tonight. I'd want to see the corrections so that I can prove them again.
Yep, that's completely up to you guys and how you guys want to move forward. We would not most likely, unless you would like us to come out and present a new report, you would just wait until you get the updated pages and then present it at your subsequent board meeting.
That's fine with me. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No other questions at this time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much for your
much.
time.
Thank you. Would we like to go on to the treasurer's report now?
Yep. Yes. Hold on a second. Papers in order.
Of course.
Anthony, is there anything we need to do since it was an item on the agenda?
Nope. We typically have only received the audit.
Okay.
So we can receive the corrections and apply those corrections.
Great.
We
And
could
then
take action if necessary, otherwise we can accept the changes that were produced. There were a few aberrations in the reporting on pages 34 through 45-ish. There was a misstatement of the property tax revenue that was received for the general fund and the special reserve funds, or the special revenue funds, rather. The numbers, I think, were just drawn from an incorrect page. We actually received less than what was stated there. We wanted to make sure that that data was corrected, and it will have an impact on that one piece of the MD&A. So we do want to make sure that those things are corrected. They don't materially affect the outcome of the audit materials, but we want to make sure that the content is 100% correct before we post it online for everyone else to consume. So we'll make sure that that information is corrected, and if the board decides that you want to have this as an agenda item at the November meeting, we can certainly review that. Procedurally, in the past, we have merely accepted the changes, and then we post the audit.
Okay. Not sure if the answer what I'm, okay, that sounds good. On to the treasurer's report. I'm making sure everybody can hear me. There were no tax revenues in the month of September. Interest income continues to be robust, and as a result, the general fund income is already at 85% of the budget as of the end of September. I am very grateful we're taking advantage of the good rates while we can, because they will not continue indefinitely. That's very good. In the notes of the financial statement, general fund interest was $31,125, special reserve fund interest was $28,403, and in addition, which you wouldn't know, buried in there is there's an additional $2,600 that are in the IMRF and FICA interest portion in a MaxSafe account. So there's a little bit of extra interest in there too. In looking at the checks, there's a couple that are labeled a little differently than in the past. For example, on pages 11 and 12, which I sent to everybody so you knew what I was talking about, they're now, these are credit card payments. What we're doing is we're paying these directly online to a credit card company once we pay the vendors, and then the payments are debited from our bank account. They just look a little bit different. If you look at pages 11 and 12 of the checks, they say something like FNBO, 21,500. They just look different than our typical checks. So so everyone knows what they are. There are a number of checks to ProQuest. ProQuest is one of the 5 big library vendors, and we've had a business relationship for 20 years. Due to the limits on the credit cards this month, we processed the invoice with a series of separate payments. So that's why there were a number of payments to them. Are there any questions on any other items, checks? Anything? The other thing is Anthony and Sandra have been working on using ACH more as a safety, which is great. Direct payments and credit card. Is there a motion to approve the bills and salaries?
I move approval of the bills and salaries check detail for September 2024 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion at this point, or are we comfortable and confident? So we have a motion for approval of the bills and salaries check detail for September 2024, made by Trustee DiLorenzo and seconded by Trustee Nealon. May we have a roll call?
Yes. Trustee Cox?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo? Yes. Trustee Nealon?
Yes.
Trustee O'Keefe?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Summer?
Yes.
And Trustee Fishman is absent.
The next action item is resolution number 2024/25-216, the National Friends of Libraries Week 2024 proclamation. If you give me one moment, I'm going to read that for the record. And it's in recognition of our Friends, which is an absolutely wonderful organization for the Wilmette Public Library. The Board of the Library Trustees of the Wilmette Public Library District, Cook County, Illinois, resolution number 2024/25-216, National Friends of Libraries Week 2024 proclamation. Whereas October 20th through 26, 2024 has been declared National Friends of Libraries Week by United for Libraries, a division of the American Library Association, and whereas the Friends of the Wilmette Public Library support the mission and vision of the Wilmette Public Library District and its commitment to excellence, and whereas the Friends promote the joys and benefits of literacy and learning by investing valuable time and effort by raising supplementary funds to support meaningful library programming and sharing excess book donations from Books Down Under beyond our community. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees proclaims October 20th through 26, 2024 as Friends of the Library Week in the Wilmette Public Library District, Cook County, Illinois, and encourages everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all that they do to help make our library and community so much better. So if we could have a motion, please, to approve this resolution in support and recognition of our Friends of the Library, I'd appreciate it.
I move approval of resolution number 2024-25-16, National Friends of the Libraries Week 2024 proclamation as presented.
I second.
No discussion needed, or anyone would like to make any comments?
Is there anything planned for that week?
We just plan to thank our volunteers every day of the week.
Got it. I didn't know if there was.
And this week, we celebrated our friends at a volunteer luncheon where trustees and staff were honoring the Friends and the Friends Board for their contributions.
So we have a motion made by Trustee Summer and seconded by Trustee Senate. If we could have a roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Cox?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Nealon?
Yes.
Trustee O'Keefe?
Yes?
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Summer?
Yes.
And Trustee Fishman is absent.
Thank you. The next item is the holiday closings for calendar year 2025, which is attachment 5 to the documentation tonight. I don't believe there's any change from last year, correct?
Correct.
And
No new dates.
Is there, would you like this read, or shall I just say, please note these dates?
Please note these dates.
Thank you.
The one date that is kind of the aberration that we set each year is Staff Development Day. We do close for an entire Friday in the spring months to do staff training and to bring the team all together at one place. And this coming year in 2025, we've proposed April 4th, which is the first Friday in April for that event. Beyond that, the rest are our regular holidays.
May I have a motion for approval of the holiday closings for calendar year 2025 as presented?
I move approval of the holiday closings for calendar year 2025 as presented.
I'll second. No discussion needed. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Cox?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Nealon?
Yes.
Trustee O'Keefe?
Yes?
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Summer?
Yes.
And Trustee Fishman is absent.
So the motion for approval of the holiday closings for calendar year 2025 was made by Trustee Cox and seconded by Trustee O'Keefe. The next item on our agenda for this evening is the discussion items, the summary of the Finance Committee meeting of October 2nd, 2024, and the discussion of draft ordinance number 2024/25-213, an ordinance levying taxes for library purposes for the fiscal year 24-25 for a total of $6,573,818. Introductory information and background scenarios leading to this proposed levy are appended, and the board is expected to take action on this item at the November 17th, 2024 meeting. The deadline for filing the levy ordinance with the county clerk is the last Tuesday in December, and I'm going to pass this over to Treasurer Summer and Director Austin.
Good evening. On October 2nd, the Finance Committee met to discuss the levy ordinance for 2024-25. We had a presentation by our consultant, Andrew Kim, who went over the financial projection for the general fund operations, as well as taking into consideration the proposed renovation project and the impact on the special reserve fund. Just one note, which I think I mentioned, there's a small error in Andrew Kim's numbers for the 2024, 2025, the current year budget. The property tax levy is too high. It's not what we actually levied. It shows on the attachment that we have a deficit. I'd have to look at the number. We actually have a budgeted deficit of $355,000. Pull that to look. Obviously, it has an impact on future years, but it doesn't necessarily impact the direction that we discussed with the levy. So just as a heads up, we didn't have him go back and make the correction. It wasn't material. Let's see. In conclusion, looking at the financial projections, the Finance Committee agreed to put to the board as a whole in November as a recommendation of an increase of 4.9% over last year, noting, however, that CPI was 3.4%. But by requesting the 4.9, we will be able to capture all new construction. Does anyone have any questions? I apologize over kind of the misstatement about Andrew Kim's thing. It's a little convoluted. Did anyone have any questions or discussions from the meeting? Any comments? Those that attended? Did you want to add anything?
I will add that we have retained the services of our consultant, Andrew Kim, for the past 4 fiscal year processes, and that he has reviewed our past financial information as well as taken into account current trending for our expenditures in the general fund, as well as our 20-year plan for expenditures in the special reserve fund. As Treasurer Summer noted, we have been discussing an imminent renovation project of the first and lower level, and we've explored some of those figures and their impact, as well as the special reserve fund is comprised of funds that have been transferred as surplus funds from the general fund. As Treasurer Summer has noted, the library has not made any transfers to the general fund in the last couple of years because we've been doing deficit spending by design. We have not been able to accumulate any surplus funds in the general fund, which means we are not adding any additional revenues to the special reserve fund to help fund those capital projects that we have for the next 20 years and beyond. The only way that we can grow those funds currently is through interest from our investment. I would just add that in addition to Andrew Kim's analysis, the board had requested that he provide a narrative overview of the content that is provided in his tables. Not everyone can read numbers when they're laid out like that, and it's helpful to have some analysis to accompany that. I would encourage anyone who is interested in the future financial viability of the library district to strongly consider the content of the narrative presentation that prefaces those numbers, as they are rather meaningful and impactful in this decision.
All right.
Will we have more discussion before the vote in November?
We will have this as an action item on the agenda, and there will be opportunity for further discussion at that
Okay.
time. Are there any recommendations to make any amendments to the materials as you see beyond what we've noted in Andrew Kim's analysis? The levy document itself follows at the end of the materials, and I do believe that the content that is presented there is accurate as presented.
That's
And
correct.
that is what we would
Yeah.
pass with the county.
Yeah, that's correct. So at the next meeting, I guess the question, if there was a discussion, does anyone have any discussion on the levy at 4.9% in order to capture cost of living and any new construction? Is everyone comfortable with that? I want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay?
Okay. On to, please, the director's report. Director Austin.
Okay, thank you very much. My report is included in your packet, and I'll provide a little preface. I'm not going to go into an awful lot of detail this evening, but I've got a little bit of preamble that I'll share with you as well. Following off the conversation that we just had, we are waking to the fact that the current funding and financial path of the library is not sustainable and will require a complex combination of remediation factors in the coming decades. So staff remains committed to our mission and goals and will pursue all necessary steps to ensure that we maintain our valued services in place in our community. And we will surely be exploring this topic much more at future meetings. We do a lot of environmental scanning in libraries, and many libraries right now are struggling to recover and build back from the pandemic years. Yet Wilmette Library remains resilient and committed to its values and continuous improvement, and we enjoy a resource-rich library with a number of resources that are valued by our community. Our patron community continues to strongly engage with our programs, services, and spaces, and consume information, literature, research resources, early literacy materials, news, and media in all formats, clearly enjoying our resource-rich collections. While libraries around the country elevated marginalized voices during Freedom to Read Week, aka Banned Books Week in September 22nd through 28th, and we celebrated our democratic freedom to explore the world of ideas free from suppression, coercion, and partisan or doctrinal disapproval, I want to take this moment to acknowledge and express due gratitude to our board for their demonstrated support of our freedom to read. In February 2023, this current 7-member board unanimously passed a comprehensive update to the library's collection management policy. The library and board have resolved to protect the right to freely access information and resources, resist censorship and book banning, and provide our community the opportunity to read and access information freely as guaranteed by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. In other words, it is not the policy of this board to exclude information and resources or to arbitrarily remove resources from the collection due to pressure from any individual or organization. As library staff, we watch the news each week with awe as peer agencies around the country grapple with restrictive, partisan, and exclusionary policies. We are grateful for the support of our community and elected officials in preserving our freedoms and protecting our library for future generations. This Friday, the library will further explore the role of democracy in this election season by presenting a program in partnership with the League of Women Voters Wilmette and the District 39 PTAs and PTOs titled, I Hate Politics, How to Explain to Kids Why Civic Engagement Matters. The byline that has been shared this week by the Village and League have given this program a boost, and we encourage those who are interested to register as space is limited. So the byline is connect with local leaders and an innovative civics teacher in the Wilmette Public Library for an interactive discussion on civic engagement. Learn how local systems work and how you and your family can make a difference in our community. Adults, teens, and tweens will meet in the auditorium. Children aged 4 and up can enjoy a civics-themed story time and craft in the youth program room with their caregivers. So again, we appreciate that you would register in advance for the program, which will be held right here in this room on Friday afternoon at 4:30. And thank you to our partners in the League and the District 39 PTAs. All right, a couple items from my report specifically. We had 19,424 individual visitors to the library in September, averaging about 650 users each day. We felt things cool off a little bit that month as we think a lot of folks were back in school. We welcomed 175 new patrons in September, and we have 16,820 unexpired registered card holders, our highest number of active library cards in recent documented history. September was National Library Card Sign-Up Month, and we recently connected with hundreds of patrons in the community at the September 7th block party, various French markets, the Kenilworth Food Truck Mondays, and more community engagement events and school visits throughout the month. The big news in September for us was our consortium, the CCS Library Network, expanded. We are now offering over 5 million items to our patrons from all across our system with 31 libraries. We were excited to welcome Mount Prospect and Waukegan Public Libraries to our consortium. We did have to go offline in our catalog for a few days in order to accommodate the addition of those expansive collections. During that time, patrons could still check out items and could retrieve their holds, but they needed to bring their library cards because we couldn't look them up. All in all, the migration was a great success, and we're really happy with the results. And the good news is that we're looking forward to the prospect of welcoming the Vernon Area Library, which serves Vernon Hills and Lincolnshire next fall. So this has become a bit of a pattern for CCS. Each fall, we seem to be welcoming some new libraries. So great benefits for our patrons here in Wilmette. The next big news for us in September was we ended the month on a very high note by welcoming a new member to our team. Assistant Director Renee Grassi started on Monday, September 30th, and Renee directly oversees our public service departments, including adult services, circulation, digital maker services, and youth services, in addition to her administrative duties. Renee was most recently the director of the Lake Bluff Public Library, and prior to that role for 6 years, she served as youth services manager for Dakota County Library in South Suburban Minneapolis-St. Paul, where she oversaw youth services at 10 library locations, serving a population of 440,000. Originally from Chicagoland, she was the youth services manager at both the Glen Ellen and Glencoe libraries before that, and also worked in youth services at Deerfield and information services at Indian Trails and Wheeling. She served as adjunct faculty for graduate education and library science at St. Catherine's University in St. Paul, Minnesota, and has been a library accessibility consultant for the past decade. She has been honored with several awards at the state and national level, including her 2012 Library Journal Mover and Shaker honor as an advocate for inclusive programming work at Deerfield. Renee holds her MLS from Dominican University, my alma mater. She's also made a positive impact at Wilmette in just her 3rd week here, and we know that she will continue to be an asset to our team as we continue our organizational growth and development. Please join me in welcoming Assistant Director Renee Grassi to Wilmette Public Library. Yay. What else can I say? We vaccinated 38 staff this past month. We provide an annual flu and COVID vaccination clinic, and we had a number of staff that participated. We're really happy about that. I want to celebrate our friends. We just celebrated them a moment ago with Friends Week. Our Friends Volunteer Corps is now helping us to process our discards and outs from our partner vendors. This is a huge lift for our team, and we're really grateful for their support because we've been doing a lot of deep collection work this year, and it's been wonderful to have their additional tier of support with that. Staff are developing a series of lunch and learn opportunities this fall, including additional phone system training, orientation to artificial intelligence in our industry and beyond, and preparing for our new office productivity software that will launch concurrent with our updated computer systems this fall. A couple other items I want to share. If you look in my report under youth services, you'll see a couple things that were really great. We hosted Nanny Appreciation Day on September 20th, and nannies are an everyday fixture here at the library, and this was a wonderful way to celebrate all the things that they do in service of our youth. One of my favorite programs always is our stuffed animal sleepover. It's really cute, and there were a lot of stuffies that joined us this month for a sleepover. Another program that we hosted this month is called Our Names Are Important. District 39 has a year-long initiative that they've launched to promote equity and inclusion in every classroom. And they're offering book recommendations and curriculum support for that. And each month, we will feature a different theme of belonging, beginning with Our Names Are Important here at the library. The project is driven by the district's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, and as those themes are aligned with our own strategic plan goal for connected community and to support our partnership with teachers and school librarians, youth services will be reflecting each theme throughout the year with book displays, book lists, and interactive activities. And this project is coordinated by our community engagement librarian, Sarah Jo Zaharako, who does a number of our Let's Learn Together programs and other engagements like our Between the Lines program this Friday. As far as other programs, there's a lot going on around the library this month, but I will say that we did kick off the new fall season with a concert, as we typically do, and we welcomed a pianist duo. Lam Wong and Nathan Canfield were here in the auditorium, and we had over 80 attend that event. Those are kind of the highlights that I wanted to share with you all. Are there any items that you would like to pull from my report or any questions that you have for me or the staff?
I do
Hearing
not at this
none.
time.
Okay, then we can move on with the rest of our agenda. Thank you.
Any committee reports, please, for ILA or Rails?
No update.
No update. And any update for the Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee?
I have not been contacted by anybody. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
What I can say, I will add a note from staff. As you may know, the communications teams were deputized to have a separate committee to support the work of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee. Our community events manager, Sarah Beth Brown, participates on that program, and they're putting together a website that's based on content that Trustees Summer and Nealon had put together as part of this committee. They are building out this website, and they have a draft version of that they're working through in terms of the content. So we're really excited to see that. It is going to be hosted on the Village's website. I think that they are planning to launch this in May of '25. So there'll be a little bit more development of this before it officially launches, and we'll have some more updates to share. But it is in motion.
The purple communication folder for communication that we receive at the library is available for trustees to review. And just a reminder that 3 seats, the 7-member Board of Trustees will be open for the Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 election. All seats will be for a full 4-year term, expiring in April 2029. And election packets are available at the library. Any new business? If there is none, shall we have a voice motion to adjourn the meeting at, let me see, 7:11?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
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 And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to just send this to Marty before I leave. I think I might can do that.
Have a